All right. So, hey guys, welcome to this week's video. In this video, as you can see, I have a guest. I'm not alone. I have an amazing member of the Upgrade to Life program today here with me. And we want to talk about some successes that he achieved because he also started this manifestation journey. He also had some goals, including some things that are really relevant for also other people in this journey, in this realm of manifesting. And we just really want to talk about all of this, was what helped him, what insights he gained, what successes he achieved, and yeah, just speak about manifesting and Neville Gutter's teachings here. And for the sake of keeping things anonymous, I will not share his identity. So you will see just the letter A, but his name will be kept a secret and anonymous for because that was his wish, and I absolutely appreciate that. So first of all, welcome to this call. Hi, it's nice to speak with you.
Hi, Niclas. Thanks for doing this call, and also I really just would like to share my perspective on things, just to give other people hope, because I was in that position myself, like seeking and looking out for like the success stories, just to give me a little bit of extra motivation. But at the end of the day, I guess it's all within. It's all in yourself. But
Yeah.
certainly these things can help.
Yes, you are 100% right, and I absolutely agree with you on that. And as you mentioned, you have been also, one of these people that started this whole manifesting journey, and this can be quite overwhelming at some stages. I'm sure most people would agree. So maybe one thing that would be interesting to talk about first before we go into, more of your stories and experiences would be, what was your view when you first came into this whole manifesting realm? Like you had goals and desires, and we will, like I said, talk more about them in just a minute. But when you then dove into the manifesting realm and Neville's teachings and the law of assumption, and you saw what's going on, what was your view on that? Was it easy to comprehend? Was it overwhelming? Like, how did you felt about all of this stuff out there?
Well, it was pretty overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I didn't start with Neville's teachings. It just through hours and hours and hours of just going on YouTube and reading certain things, I eventually was led to Neville's teachings, which resonated with me the most. But it started out with basic law of attraction um, teachings,
Yeah.
and it didn't really resonate with me. I wasn't feeling you have to be in the vibration in order to get what you want. It more, but then when I started reading more about Neville's teachings and law of assumption teachings, it something triggered in me that what you believe to be the case and what you believe and know that you deserve and what you want in your life, that on its own will shift your mindset and naturally make you feel more positive about whatever outcome you desire. So that's really what my path was like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this. And I think that is what many people encounter is that because the law of attraction is more, let's say typical or mainstream, or there's more teachings about general law of attraction out there, it can be quite confusing. But in your case, you stay dedicated in a sense, like you wanted the right answers and you just keep searching. And then you found out Neville, the law of assumption, and that resonated with you. And so another question that I think is really, really interesting is, let's just imagine a scale from 1 to 10, okay, where a 1 is representing a person that, is super doubtful if manifesting is real, if this works, if they can do it for themselves. And, they have a lot of doubts and fears around all of this. And a 10 is a person that has full faith that this law is real, that it works literally all the time, like that they have God's power within themselves, they have this imaginative power within themselves. What would you say right now, first of all, in the beginning, when you started your journey on this scale, which number would you say was most relating to you on this scale from 1 to 10?
Honestly, it was a -1 to be
In active
totally
form.
honest with you. Like, honestly, in the beginning, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But I was such at a desperate point in terms of wanting what I wanted, that I was willing to just be receptive towards anything. And as I was going through my journey and going through my experience, it eventually got onto the scale. It got to
Yeah.
a 1, and then it went to a 2 and 3 and then 4. And then once I started seeing more things, I'm like, okay, this is probably, it seems like it's working. It's not that it's working, it's just the reality. It's the law.
Yeah.
And then once you accept that this is the way things actually are, then it starts going higher up in the scale. But I'm not going to lie, there were times where even as I was seeing growth in my belief, and I went back down on the scale just
Mhm.
because, but it's life, I guess. You have ups and downs, but as long as sometimes you take a step back, but as long as you take 2 steps forward, that's what counts at the end of the day.
Yeah. Love that. Love that explanation. And it's absolutely correct. So then your journey basically progressed. You came into this whole realm. And then at some stage, you discovered while you were searching for topics, you discovered, I'm sure, like my channel, my teachings. And I also talk about purely Neville's teachings in the law of assumption. So before we now come to your actual successes, which I think will be, really interesting for most people to hear. Um, why did you decided to join the Upgrade Your Life program, and why did you not decided to join other, types of things out there? Like we know that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of options out there, but what made you feel like, okay, for this reason, I want to team up with Niclas, Upgrade Your Life, and see what they can help me with.
Well, so I'm by nature, pretty logical person. Like I analyze things, and I really do a deep dive on my research. And one thing that resonated with your program was you take a similar logical approach to Neville's teachings. And it seemed more scientific to me in nature as opposed to feeling oriented. And for me personally, like when you're in disbelief on whether something is reality or not, if somebody provides you a logical explanation to in particular this concept,
Mhm.
it resonates with you more and it makes it more believable, and that's what really attracted me to your program.
Got it. Real nice. Yeah. And I'm super glad that it did resonate. And I'm super glad that, I helped you and we help you to make some profound shifts. So I would suggest that this is a good time in our conversation to talk a little bit about your achievements, right? As you explained this perfectly, you went up the scale basically from a -1 to testing it, to seeing some results, to seeing some manifestations that you could trace back to you, that you were the cause of that you were initiating those manifestations. So which of the things would you like to share with the audience that is listening to us? Like which manifestations would you like to point out that really changed your life, changed your perspective? You can speak about that if you like.
So I this sorry, I get a little emotional sometimes just thinking about it, in all honesty, because it really has been quite um, quite the process and quite the journey.
Yes.
And now that it's actually here, sometimes I need to pinch myself. So out of happiness, because I'm so happy. It was a few years ago that I was in a relationship with my SP, and I made a mistake, and circumstances of which doesn't matter, but we stopped being together. And the mistake that I made was not what people may assume it was. It was something that I wasn't mentally ready for that type of commitment, because we were younger, um, but I knew how much I loved this person, and it was really, yeah. Anyways, we I lost this person, and immediately I regretted it, because I realized that I couldn't live with my life without this person, in all honesty. And for several years, um, I I went through this journey, and periods of no contact, of third parties, and just total, um, lack of faith that I will ever, um, sometimes be with this person again, the person that I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. But at the end of the day, I never gave up on my desire for this person.
Yeah.
When you know something, it becomes factual to you. Like it's a knowingness that this is what I know that I deserve in my life. And if we deserve each other, then why shouldn't we get what we both want?
Mhm.
Um, and so it just persistence, and honestly, like, I feel that had I been more trusting of this law, maybe this would have happened a lot sooner.
Mhm.
But I guess that quote really is accurate, that everything happens in its own appointed hour. Um, because perhaps we're at the place in our lives that it needed to be now that this happened. Um, so yeah, I guess it's just really just keeping the faith throughout this entire process and journey, that this is who I knew I was destined to be with, and having loyalty to the unseen reality.
Mhm.
That's really that's the biggest line and quote from Neville that just really has always resonated with me. People call me crazy, stupid, like, just all the things in the world. Just call me delusional for never giving up on my desire to be with this person,
Mhm.
despite all the reality showing me that it wasn't possible. But it, it is possible to get what you want.
100%. What was that feeling like when you saw that, your world reflected back the inner movement?
It's a sort of a combination of a bunch of different emotions. It was natural, obviously, like disbelief that everything that you imagined like actually came into reality. But also it's just like if you knew something was going to happen, then it's not that shocking either,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's still like it felt amazing, like,
Yeah.
like, just it was such a sudden thing that this materialized. And at that particular moment, I remember it was one defining moment that, like, okay, things like something actually happened, that I I was working out, and I almost dropped the weight on my on my neck when I was.
That's how dangerous manifesting can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a combination of a bunch of feelings, and most importantly, I guess being at peace is the biggest emotion that I felt. Just a, a deep breath of air for like the first time in several years.
Mhm.
That's Imagine like holding your breath for such a long period of time, and then finally exhaling at that
Yeah.
first time. That's what it felt like.
Got it. I love this story already. And there are, yeah, a bunch of, not a bunch of, but there are a couple of questions that I would still like to ask about this, especially, what you mainly did or what your preferred methods were and stuff like that. Before I ask you that, one other question. This is I'm sure, or I would assume, like the let's call it for the sake of conversation, the biggest like success maybe that you have seen. But are there also other things where you would say, wow, like this law also helped me in those type of areas? Or would you say to conclude it like this is the ultimate proof, this is the biggest thing so far?
I mean, there's certainly little things that happen throughout my journey in building up my confidence that this law is a reality. Little things like sometimes like finding a penny with the heads up on the street. I remember I just to try it one time because this is the one I always remember. I live in an apartment building and nobody carries change anymore. Like it just nobody. So I'm like, okay, let me just imagine seeing a penny with a heads up on the floor on the ground.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I did this. The 2 days later, I was walking, and I sure enough saw it. And then, no joke, this was a year ago that I remember this. I've probably seen 10 heads up pennies on the ground. And I just yesterday I saw one too. I'm not even kidding. Like
Yeah.
it just little thing. I mean, that's obviously very little, but in the story that I gave was the biggest one. But it's important because
Yeah.
you build momentum. And it's just like exercising. You're training your mental, um, your mind. You're training yourself to be stronger.
Yeah. You like train your attention, you train your awareness, you train your imagination. And I think that is one of the main thing, to be really honest and straight to the point right now, that separates the people that actually, achieve results, no matter how long it takes or if the journey has ups and downs, but that just persist through that and actually get results, then the ones who always fall back or not really change, but the ones who are dedicated, who test this law with the little seemingly little silly things that you did. But for outstanding people, this will sound silly. This will sound like, oh, okay, and what's the point of manifesting a penny or stuff like that? But it's the same with Neville's well-known ladder experiment, right? It sounds super silly at first, but then he told his students that this the same way that you just manifested this ladder, you could literally have manifested anything else that your goal is, that your desire is, because that's the principle, right? You experience it within, and then it also reflected in the 3D world. So I think that is it seems like a minor thing, but it actually has a huge like result if you can continuously do it. So I think that's great that you did that.
Yeah, and then there's obviously like even quote unquote medium uh, size manifestations that happen and so that obviously even further strengthened my belief in this, but obviously just the big one
Yeah.
that I referenced earlier, that just sealed the deal for me.
Yeah. So during the conversation, you mentioned like those key phrases that most probably a lot of people have heard, like have faith in the unseen, which has such a deep wisdom behind it that we could make an entire conversation only around this and this knowingness and the things you mentioned. And you also know that Neville has some techniques, some core methods in a sense. And were there any things that you like most to apply to consciously bring yourself inwardly in that end state of the wish fulfilled?
Well, before I answer that, I'm just going to say that, like, I'm sure anybody else listening to this, I tried everything. You try everything in the beginning. Excuse me. Just because you're in such a low level of disbelief on whether this really works or not in the beginning, you try to just grasp on everything. But then one thing that kind of resonated with me the most as I was going through this journey and process was the power of visualization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, it because visualizing things for me, it helped me in the beginning, this is the very beginning, or like medium beginning, I was talking about that it helped me to feel the feelings
Mhm.
of wanting what of feeling what and having what I desired. And then I remember when I had a session with you a couple of months ago. Um, One thing that you actually helped me with was to shift that a little bit and hearing what you want, like hearing something from somebody that implied having what you desire, because it took the pressure and stress off of it and it made it seem more realistic and more achievable. Like this is actually a future scenario that will happen, because if you, it just takes the stress and pressure off of it, of directly visualizing something with that person, for instance. But hearing somebody else talk to you about something relating, in my case, to my specific person, just it made it seem more real.
Yeah. And surely made it seem more natural than to forcefully, yeah, see anything. And I think honestly that is a big concern for most people. And I heard this a lot of times that people say, okay, I can't see anything. I just see black. I don't know what to visualize. And then there are people that constantly visualize things where they feel euphoric and super hyped, but they don't reach this state of naturalness, which Neville also figured out is a core thing, like just this natural knowing. This of course it is so, and then this conviction is what reflects back in our life.
I had and relating to the previous topic about different manifestations that you had, I remember I was one of the things that I was like I visualized and then I heard, like one of the scenes that I used was me being at an airport um, for a meeting or a layover, and being at the gate going to the city that my specific person lives in, that in a future date that we're together or married, and being on the phone with somebody being like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm going back home where this person lives.
Mhm.
And a month ago I was actually in this city at the airport that I visualized. I wasn't going to this particular city. I was going back home, but I got there earlier and I was waiting for my flight at the gate. And I looked up and the previous flight's information was on there. And sure enough, it was that city that my specific person lives in. And it I know it's something small, but just little things like this just made me believe in this more and built up my faith.
Yeah, awesome.
I just wanted to share
Really
that.
awesome. Yeah, and no, that's perfect that you did, because you like made it your own thing. You like made it your own process, and you applied the core principles in the right way. You choose something specifically tied to your situation that implied the end for you, that made you feel more natural and secure about this. So absolutely fine, absolutely perfect, done. So another interesting thing, or another thing that I would like to ask, is you said that this was one thing that helped you to shift a little bit away from, oh, I have to see things, I have to visualize, to, wait a second, I could also use my sense of hearing, right? To inwardly hear things that imply that my wish is fulfilled and stuff like that. So, are there any other things from the program, right, where you would say, "Oh, this insight or this structure of understanding things and stuff like that really helped me," or was it just in sum total the entire program? Or what would you say, if you can point out things that you remember that helped you the most? What would you say were those things?
One of the things that you spoke about in the early lectures in the program was the perception of and of the concept of I am, right? And that's, who are we really as individuals, right? We're like, whatever emotions, feelings we have are just temporary. They're not who we are. Like, you don't say I am sad and that, or I am happy, and that defines you in perpetuity, in your entirety of existence, in before this physical life that we're in, and even after. It just we that's and what that did for me, and that concept of I am, was um, focusing on the now, and focusing on okay, I have my desire. I know that I'm going to get to this reality at some point because it already exists. And so it just, going, I'm, my reality is shifting to get me to that point. And that concept of just, of focusing on our true essence of who we are as in our souls, I think that helped me lay the foundation, to get to the other parts of the program, which specifically relate to SP, and also, and it's not just the SP for me. I'm also trying to, uh, I also have other desires
Sure,
too.
sure.
Uh, so it's just applying it to all facets of your life.
Yeah.
I
What
hope
would
that I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, this answered the question, and you said what is so oftentimes forgotten, quite sadly, in this whole manifesting realm, because everyone is just learning about the latest technique, the latest I don't know affirmation or shit. What can I do right now? Should I take this action and all of this stuff? But this core, this fundament, like this. Okay, who am I? Right? And the self-investigation, the self-inquiry to realize, wait a second, like I am beyond my thoughts, I'm beyond my emotions, right? I'm beyond this identity. Can also bring this set of, not can, but when really understood and realized, brings this sense of more peace and more calm, and also approaching manifesting not in this forceful approach and trying to manipulate things and forcing things into being and all of that. It's more a natural approach. And that is also what I think is what you then realized while you progressed in your journey. And you also mentioned, and that is, I think, important to say, is that this journey usually starts with one or two main desires. And I'm just speaking here from my own experiences and for most people. And in your case, this was like a person and a relationship with this person. And but later on, when this manifested, you realized, oh, this is not like when this manifested, the journey does not stop, right? The journey still continues. There is still other goals, other desires, and I still can apply this law for other life areas. And my question here right now is, what would you say in general, if you would conclude it? What would you say? How has your life changed after you, went through this journey and you started this journey, you started this program? How has your life changed? Like more speaking in inward terms, right? But also maybe externally.
Well, internally, I feel just an abundance of peacefulness. Like, that's honestly what this whole thing is. It's about finding inner peace. Like, um, it's there's so much stress and so much anxiety that people, that I'm saying myself, that you just have on a daily basis. And if you, especially when you want and desire something so badly, like a specific person, that, because it's I'm going to be honest, for me, a specific person manifesting that, it just, there's a different level of emotion to it because it involves the heart. It shouldn't matter in reality, but it's human nature.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it it's just in order to get to the place that you know you want to be in, you have to, like we've already mentioned, you have to build a foundation, and it's your own self-concept and your own inner work should be paramount above everything else. Because at the end of the day, I always use this analogy in a lot of different areas, but they always say when you're on a plane, they're giving you the safety instruction. So they always say help put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Because if you don't put on your own oxygen mask first, then how can you help anybody else?
Yeah.
So similar thing, like you have to do the work, in my opinion, to get that peace and get um, that knowingness in the faith that and just build yourself up as the amazing person that you have to know you are to warrant in achieving your desires. And honestly, like my perception of myself was pretty bad for a long period of time. I was depressed. I was unhappy. I was going to bed crying several nights. Like reality really hit me hard a lot, but you just got to persist and but you have to build yourself first, more than anything else. So that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, it's a key thing, and I 100% agree with you on that. Mm, maybe just yeah, a couple of more interesting things because I know the audience, I know who's listening here most probably. People that again like maybe are currently at the stage where you are when you started this entire journey, right? People that are quite new to it, or people that heard about it but are not sure what to do now, and all of these things. So I think we already gave them some really good insights and really good explanations from your experience. Mm, a big thing that I also see, and I'm sure you will agree with me on that, is that there is this overload on information out there, right? You have millions of videos, millions of, I don't know, podcasts, and also books and this information about manifesting. And a lot of the time we want to find, this little magic key, like this little thing that is finally this secret thing that will make it happen. What would you say now that you went through this entire journey? Would you say that there is such a thing? Or would you say, wait a second, like, no, how I manifest one thing is how I manifest anything?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I specifically point back to your program, just that it resonated with me specifically because of the logical approach that you take to Neville's teachings and just the law of assumption in general. But yeah, you definitely go through trial and error, um, and going through different videos and going through the process, and you ultimately realize that at the end of the day, it's yourself, it's you that has to. It's not like maybe something will click for you, and like for me, it was specifically your teachings that finally made things click for me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's something that you have to know is the reality. So it's like the law of gravity. Like if something's real and something is um, true,
Yeah.
and you just have to come to that realization and apply it and accept it.
Yeah. Why I asked this question was to point out again for people listening to us right now is that there actually is no secret, because if you know that it is you that is responsible, that is the operant power that has the key in his own hands, then you stop to search for any magic pill like that will finally get it done. Wait a second, no, how I approach manifesting for this area of my life is also how I approach it for this area. But then people see, oh, like when you want the car, you have to do this. When you want a relationship or relationship with a desired person, you have to do this. And people think there are different strategies or magic pills for certain areas. But the conclusion that I came to is that that's wrong. There is only one way. There is only one truth, and that is that you are the creator. You are God. You are this awareness that created everything, and you can consciously use it to shift into your desired state so that it manifests. That's maybe a good key point, also important to tell. Mm, maybe to slowly come to a conclusion of this call, because I think we already talked about, the main things right here. If someone is listening to this conversation right now, right, someone that also wants to manifest goals, also wants to understand this law, also wants to build confidence in themselves, shift at the core level, and finally, see that, wow, this is real. What would you tell them right now? What would you give them with as a tip, if you spontaneously have some? What would you tell a person?
That's a really good question.
One thing could be to join the UTL program.
You can put a plug in for your program. Like it worked for me.
Yeah.
So like I'm not, this isn't a contrived thing. I'm sharing my story right now, and your program definitely helped me. So if anybody's listening to this and I'm giving you genuine words that Niclas's program did help me, and I'm sure it will help other people as well. But
Awesome.
one thing that definitely I would advise, and as a part of my journey, is is the importance of not dwelling on negative thoughts. That's like, for me, that was my biggest thing that I struggled with for years. Constant inner negative talk, like just clouding my judgment and then clouding my decision making, and making me do obviously wrong things that just, but if I didn't dwell and let those negative thoughts affect me so much, I really believe that this would have happened a lot sooner. I'm being honest. Like it
Mhm.
just, I know everything happens when it's supposed to happen, but but I definitely feel like I delayed the process, or at the very least, I definitely made the journey a lot more difficult on myself. I lost a lot of hair maybe because of this. I definitely have a lot more gray hair for sure.
Yeah.
Um, just because, just because at the end of the day, like, okay, everybody has negative thoughts. Like it happens, right? Like it just, that's our ego trying to protect ourselves by by showing these negative thoughts. But it just, sometimes you just gotta accept, like, okay, I'm having these thoughts, but so what? So what? It's what if, like, these negative thoughts aren't a reality? What if it's actually what I'm desiring is going to come into reality? You think I'm going to think about these negative thoughts and tomorrow? Like, does it really matter at the end of the day? We aren't our thoughts. Like we talked about earlier, like the concept of who am I? Like,
Yeah.
we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We're not our emotions. We're something deeper than that. So just hopefully something can resonate with anybody listening to this that struggles with negative self-talk.
Yes. I'm sure it will, because that does not only help for a certain manifestation, but this wisdom, this knowing, will last, and also in your situation, it will last for the rest of your life, right? And it will, from now on, continuously getting easier for yourself to detach if such a thought comes up, or to not identify with it, right? But the problem that people are encountering, including you at the beginning of the journey, is that you are immediately so identified and so indulged in these thoughts, and you believe them to be true, and you accept them for yourself. And yeah, that can feel really limiting. That can feel really that life is against you, that everything is difficult. So I think that was actually, to be really honest, I think that was the best explanation and the best topic to end our conversation and this little interview with, because at the end, this is what it comes down to, is to realize who you are, and that you're infinitely greater than the ego tells you, and that you have an infinitely great power within yourself, right? That we can, with tests, like my great interview guest did, and with applying it constantly, and with following a program or having some guidance, that is achievable with that. So I want to thank you for joining me today in this great conversation. It was a
Thank you.
blast. It was a pleasure to have you on and to have someone authentically share his manifesting journey and successes and experiences. I wish you all the best for your journey in life.
Thank you. And definitely to anybody listening to this, just know that it's going to happen, whatever you want. So just, I hope I can be a testimony to not giving up, because seriously, my struggles and my journey was, I laugh at it now, but it was a long one. So just don't give up.